everyone, it's Chrissy Regan, and you're joined today on the Everyday Wellness Podcast by Alexandra Andre. Hi, Alexandra.
Hi, Chrissy. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So we had the joy of meeting on the 1st of October in Melbourne at the Marathon Runners Festival, and that was exciting. And I got to pick up a copy of your book called The Power of Possibility. And I discovered we've got a few things in common. You're a marketeer, a mum, and a marathoner. You're also an author and an Ironman. I'm not an Ironman, an Iron Woman. I think we need to change it from Ironman to Iron Woman. What do you reckon?
I'm happy with either, to be honest. I'm all for females and women doing. We do so much. But yeah, to me, it's an Ironman just because that's the event. But
yeah, that's the name.
That's
yeah,
it.
I was just thinking, well, Iron Woman doesn't have the same funny ring to it, does it? But congratulations. I love your book. I had the chance to read it. I'm really proud of you, I have to tell you.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thanks, Chrissy. And I was delighted our paths crossed when they did.
Yeah, it's awesome when you meet other authors out doing their thing. And I don't know if you've discovered this for yourself as an author, but you have to strut your stuff sometimes and you're the best person to sell your book. Have you experienced that?
Absolutely. And I also have a newfound respect for authors because having been through the process myself, I know what it takes to put a book together, and there's a lot of effort. There's a lot of heart that goes into a book, depending on what sort of book we write, but we often share and effort our heart and soul in it. So I have a newfound respect for authors as well. And yeah, absolutely, we need to back ourselves and believe in what we've done and put it out there ourselves. And I think I'm discovering that more and more these days in terms of just really backing ourselves, not in an artificial sort of way, just in it genuinely. There's a lot of us doing some really good stuff in the world, and we need to believe in ourselves and encourage others, as you know you do on your podcast and in the work you do, sharing what great people, including yourself, are doing in this world.
Thanks. That's really awesome. It leads on to my next question, because your book tells the story of an ordinary person doing extraordinary things. And it was my neighbor, my 54-year-old neighbor, that inspired me to believe I could run my first marathon at the age of 46 3/4. And I've since done a second one at the age of 47. But do you feel like that? Is it ordinary people that have inspired you the most in your life?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the ordinary people, which, there's the extraordinary within all of us. So there's nothing neither ordinary or extraordinary about any of us. I think it's the relatability, because when we hear of an older person doing a marathon, or someone that's, their physique might not look like a marathon runner, perhaps, they're the stories I love hearing about and I love connecting with, because it's the seemingly impossible that people take on based on where they're at that makes anything achievable and really relatable. And actually, that's what a few people have said about my book, is that they've read elite running books and they love them, but they couldn't quite relate to them. And with no discredit to the elite athletes in the world, they're amazing, they're absolutely incredible and inspiring. But sometimes it's those everyday stories that we can relate to a little bit more. And I think if we can relate to something, that's when we can connect with it and we can sort of gain the most from it. So absolutely, I'm surrounded by, so many ordinary people doing more amazing things than they realize or care to sort of talk about. But you see it in the everyday lives. That's where the big sort of, I think, big inspiration comes from for me, for sure.
Yeah, that's so true. And I cried a few times reading your book. Did you cry when you were writing it?
I did. That's really touching to hear. Thank you, Chrissy. And I did. I found it, really moving to write. And, it's been described as an inspiring memoir. And so it is, it's a memoir of my journey and also what I've learned and discovered, in the hope, I can share and inspire others. But the process in itself to write was a big one for me. So I connected dots on my journey that I hadn't actually connected before. Things I realized that one thing led to another. And I did. It was a really deep reflection process to write it. I almost describe it as is a really deep journaling process at the same time. So it was a wonderful, experience for me to write it. But that comes with, experiencing those emotions when you live the journey, but then when you write and reflect on it, that's a really deep process as well. So I found it quite emotional to write at the same time.
So it's called The Power of Possibility, and it's a journey of inspiration and courage. It talks about your journey to complete your first Ironman, which you did in Melbourne, and you did it in 12 hours, 12 minutes, and 12 seconds. And that was like also a spooky moment, because you kind of had something in your mind that was close to that, were you? I remember reading something.
Yeah, that's right.
Like
that there was that's it. The synchronicity. Yeah. Well, having 3 numbers like that to the second is so synchronistic in itself.
Yeah.
But also, I didn't discover till later that that number was actually a pretty significant number in the friend of mine. I dedicated the Ironman, as you would have read, to a really good friend of mine who'd sadly and tragically passed away in my journey to training for the Ironman. His name was Mads, and his son, he had a little 2-year-old son who I high-fived on the course, who was cheering me on, and having dedicated the Ironman to him. And that number was actually really close to his birth date, which was, he was there that day, and it meant a lot to complete the Ironman, to gain the support I did, and give his family and friends the strength and hope it did. But for those numbers to appear, and for those numbers to actually then be pretty close to his son's birth date, was quite, things like that happen, and they don't just happen. They I think they're organized in a way somehow. So I certainly felt that, and felt his presence that day, and it made it an even more special day.
I'm smiling, but I'm trying not to cry, actually, because that was a huge part of your book, your journey to raise funds for Mads. And, I know I've lost a few friends myself in the last few years, and this year I've been running to raise funds for my friends in Ukraine. So, there's a war going on in Ukraine this year. So I felt that every time I have the pain or the hardship, and I know that you went through this in your training for your Ironman as well, that you can put things in perspective, really, can't you? Because you think, oh, well, actually, this pain and suffering that I'm feeling right now in this moment is nothing compared to, what those people are suffering or what those people are dealing with. And did you have that kind of driving force within you as well?
I did, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I guess in 2 ways. I took the Ironman on. It was a big goal. I couldn't run more than 12 Ks. I'd suffered running injuries for a long time. But I took it on with perspective. So my friend gave me that perspective because he had just been diagnosed with this terminal illness, and it made me realize that life is so short. Like, just, sign up to these big goals, give it a shot. What's the worst thing that can happen? Maybe you won't get there. That's okay. But I think just that perspective on life being short, and we have to give things a go while we can. That was really my motivation for signing up. And he, without even trying, he inspired that based on his diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, when he did pass away, to then choose to dedicate my Ironman to him, it gave me a sense of purpose like I'd never felt before, like an unrelenting drive and motivation. It was, and you will have experienced that. It is such it's almost a force of nature that comes from within you, because you've got such purpose and meaning to do this event. And I felt that firsthand. And I love supporting others doing an event it could just be for themselves and it's their first time or whatever it may be. But when I hear of someone dedicating an event to a cause, or particularly to, in memory of someone, that tugs at my heartstrings, because I've experienced that, and I know how powerful it can be, and also just how purposeful and meaningful it can be. It's really special. And I think we feel those friends that are with us doing those events, like they're on the sidelines there in some way. And I think it's a really special thing to be able to do that and do it with such purpose.
That's so true. I feel like that as well. Like, my friends are with me, but it's also a good way of me processing my grief and making sense, and you can turn your heartache towards something positive because you know it's something that you can do to give back that others can't do at the moment, you know.
That's it. And I guess if I can, to reflect on my friend Mads, he was the first really good friend that I'd lost, and it was really hard. And he wasn't a family member, but just a really good friend, and young and fit. And it was so tragic, and it was such a loss. But that's what I did. Without intent, I mean, that's how the journey evolved. But to channel that grief to strength and training, and it became something semi-positive that came, not positive, that's the wrong word, but there was strength and hope that came from that. And to see the impact that had on his family and friends and on me, I was quite blown away by the impact we all have on each other and in the actions we choose. So yeah, I can relate to that firsthand. Absolutely.
I know you a lot of blood, sweat and tears in your brutal training regime. Like, when you look back now, do you think you're a bit crazy at the time?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the other theme that can come out of that is, because in writing the book, I reflected on my journey and just the hour, I added up all the hours of training I did and what I did. And I think that's true of any like big goal we take on or hardship we get through. We've all got things that we've done or got through that have taken enormous effort. And it's not at the time we just do it. Like the marathon, the Ironman training I just did all that because that's what I had to do to get to race day and hopefully survive through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until you reflect afterwards that you realize how big that was. And I can be really proud of that. And I think we all have things that we can be enormously proud of that we got through, or the effort we put into things. And I think particularly as females, often we don't applaud that as much as we potentially could. But yeah, it was a massive effort and undertaking for me to get there. And I did it. I absolutely did it. And it changed my life.
I resonated with the really hot run you did when you banked it, when you have those really hard sessions and you think that's one for the bank. Yes,
they are. And it's if we can get them, if we can tick a few of those off in training, it can make race day or the event you're training for, perhaps a little easier.
Yes. One thing that I loved about the book, which resonated with me a lot, and I've also been practicing, you articulate very clearly the mind-body connection and using kinesiology to help move injuries through emotional blockages and things. And so obviously you almost trialed that, experimented with it during the Ironman, but how have you gone on to continue to live or embody that since?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think that was a big reason for me getting to the Ironman. As it turned out, I did my first marathon in 2008 and that gave me an inkling of anything being possible. I then injured myself for 4 or 5 years running injuries, trying to do another one. And I, in hindsight, had a disconnect between mind and body, and I was almost commanding my body to do these long runs and things. Then I'd forgotten the joy I once felt to run. So I reignited with that joy in running and went on a growth journey with my kinesiologist who I'd come across. Went to her for a calf injury to begin with, and I'm still, we're good friends now, and I still have balances frequently, 12 years on. And I attribute a big part of my growth to kinesiology and learning, and it's a work in progress, but coming back to that mind-body connection and having us in full alignment and full energy flow without those blockages and things. So I found it on my journey, and it was I attribute a big part of that approach and that holistic approach to getting me to the Ironman. And since then I embody that in so many ways. I'm not doing as much on the physical front at the moment, still running, but not to the intensity I was before. But even on the work front, so taking the spiritual elements of to work and to physical training, and it's become a bigger and bigger part of, I think I continue to evolve on that front, and I guess you can probably relate, but there's depths, more and more depth we can go to with these things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, isn't it, really?
It is, yeah. And even trusting the universe as well, and perfect timing and the alignment of people you cross paths with and things like that. I'm a big believer of spirituality and seeing things unfold for us, and trusting your gut and your intuition.
I can certainly attest to that myself, because I did turn 47 this year, and just to have completed my second marathon in a time that I'm proud of after only 2 months of doing the first one. And a lot of people go, oh, well, I'm too injured to do that, or I can't do that, my this or my that. Many of us suffer with middle-age ailments and middle-age injuries that come, went through whether we've been sedentary, or we've not taken care of ourselves, or we have some blockage in our body. And having worked through all of those over the last 4 years, I didn't just decide at the beginning of this year, I'm going to run a marathon. I'd already built up kind of 4 years of running and stretching and supplements and a lot of those things that you talk about in your book too. So I'd built that kind of good foundation. So as I started to come across, whether a niggle or I have a sort, I feel a bit of pain in my knee. Oh, that's interesting. What's that all about? So rather than be nervous or fearful or cautious, you can be curious and you can question and you can invite the answer to come to you. And I just feel like that's been a huge part of my training, and it's enabled me to kind of achieve those goals for myself in the last few years, which also I feel, having been physically where I was 4 years ago versus where I am now, it's a completely different ball game, isn't it, when you're physically healthy to challenge yourself in that way.
It is, and I think that's such a brilliant approach you're taking, and also such an important message to share. Listening to your body, like that was it was almost, when I actually learned to start to do that, it was like I'd unlocked something, like a penny had dropped. Like, people talk about listen to your body, but actually to do it, and to do it with that curious mindset, not that, oh my goodness, my knee's sore, I've got to stop, and I've trained with people before that they'll talk poorly of a body part if it's sore.
Yes.
It's like, that's not help, but actually, and that, to talk to your mind-body connection. If you are aligned, you're on the same team together. Oh, knee, wow, you must be working really hard.
Yes.
Thank you for all you've done. You want a little rest now, or okay, what else do you need? Like feeling into what support it needs. And as I say that, I'm holding my knee, like rubbing it, giving it some Reiki or some love.
Yes.
Listening to your body and asking it what it needs for further support is huge. And but it's also such a simple thing we can all do. And our bodies carry us around all day, and to ask a marathon of our bodies is actually it's a big physical thing to ask it. So actually having a bit of a chat to it and talking to it, I think, is a pretty good way to go. And I've certainly, in a similar way, I've found so much more in terms of what I can physically achieve by being kind to my body and listening to it and talking to it.
That's really cool. I feel the same. And I think your book's articulated that really well. So congratulations on that, because it's not spoken about enough, in my opinion.
I completely agree. It's very simple, but has a profound impact. Absolutely.
You spoke of your fear around telling your mum that you're doing an Ironman, but I know, having read your book and met you, and I thought, actually, how fearful were you to tell her you were writing a book and having a baby? The same fear or less fear?
I don't know. No, I think it was the Ironman, and it's such a funny thing. Yeah, I do. I write about that in the book. I signed up to do the Ironman, and I didn't tell many people about it because it was this big crazy goal, and from where I was at as an injured runner, it was quite a ridiculous goal to take on, to be honest. But I had this inkling, I had this feeling, and as I mentioned, I had perspective from my friend. So I didn't share it with many people, and then I did. I think I was really nervous about telling mum, because, and me being a mum now myself, we care for, we want to protect and wrap our children up and look out for their health and well-being and all the rest of it. And I just knew Mum would, I don't know, I thought she'd really worry about it, and she did. She was supportive of me once she'd sort of come along the journey, but I was really nervous telling it, but I felt relief when I did tell her. But you know what, come race day, my family had all travelled interstate. She had organised high-vis T-shirts for everyone that you would have seen a photo of in the book. Team Alex, and they were, my parents are the biggest supporters of me. And I think also telling Mum made it feel more real around this big goal. And I knew she'd be worried about me, because I probably was too, because she was just reflecting the scale of the goal I'd taken on. But they were there on race day and right till the end, and Mum had tears right at the end when I'd finished, and gave her a big hug, and I said, I'm okay, I did it, I'm okay now.
And I have a photo of me, well, several photos of me running into the MCG just with this huge smile on my face at the end of my marathon. So I remember reading about the smile that you carried with you in the later stages of your marathon during the Ironman. Like, do you still, when you reflect on that, do you still get goosebumps? Because I know I do, like, oh my God, I've done it, and I have this joy about it,
Yeah, and congratulations on your marathons, Chrissy. I hadn't mentioned that earlier, but it's such a big thing. It's such a big achievement, and it's something that was only a small percentage of lots of people. We see lots of people out there running marathons, but when you look at the percentage of people in the world doing them, it's not that big, and it's it takes a lot just to get to the start line and then the finishing line, and to do 2 back to back like you did. That is an amazing achievement. And I actually still, because I'm a speaker now, and I reflect on doing the Ironman and running down that finishing chute, and I managed to jump across the finishing line somehow. And I also reflect on I can still go back to my first marathon running around the G, 2008. So that's 14 years ago. I can still go back there and remember crossing that finishing line and just falling to my hands and knees, and I was, tears of pride. So I can go back to that place as well. And I recall shaking my head for a couple of weeks at what I'd just done. And when I talk about that when I'm speaking, I go back there, because they're such big moments. And and that probably, maybe not, it doesn't happen like that for everyone, but when it becomes such a big thing for us, and when we really anchor in the sense of achievement that you would have, and I certainly have, doing what I've done, you allow it to probably anchor into your body, and maybe it locks it in as a memory that we can go back to, actually, just chatting about it now. And certainly for Ironman, that was, I can still go back there as well. And I talk about, I've come up with this concept called belief boosters.
Mm-hmm.
So allowing us to find things that we've achieved or got through that can boost the belief in ourselves and help us, propel us to the next thing. And for me, that first marathon and my Ironman, they are big belief boosters. And it was really doing that Ironman that helped boost the belief in myself to go and launch my own business, to write a book, to choose to go down the journey of having a child on my own. It was really the courage it gave me to say, well, actually nothing's off limits now. And knowing that, what more would I do in my life? Hence the theme, possibility, the power of possibility, the power of coming to life with a mindset of anything being possible. What would you do? And it opens you up to this whole world that you might not otherwise know about if you lived it more in a more insular, limited sort of mindset. So sorry, I've digressed, but
no, it's awesome. And I'm sitting here thinking 1,000 things, because I feel like you talk about the percentage of people that have done a marathon. The percentage of people that have written and published a book is also very, very small. That's another huge achievement. But those belief boosters are so important. I have definitely had those in my own life, because that back, we talked about the back yourself at the beginning, but belief boosters and the backing yourself really is what enables you to self-actualize. And only 2% of the population self-actualize, which is to become the most that one can be. So, you know, you're talking about the power of possibility, which is your power to self-actualize. And you sometimes don't even know what that is until you challenge yourself to do something different or something bigger or something even more crazy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, and that's why I love a big goal. I'm passionate about big goals. And, you know, for me and, you know, for you as well, finding those big goals in a marathon, because it helps us realize just what we're capable of. It helps stretch, like a stretch goal, whatever it is. Not everyone loves running, but whatever you're into, finding a big stretch goal, you know, at least one really big one in your life, I think is a amazing thing to do, because it can help you discover what you're capable of. You know, the concept of the mountain, you set a mountain of a goal, the mountain doesn't get any smaller, you grow to meet it. That was a beautiful quote. I can't remember who wrote that one, but we grow to meet that mountain of a goal, and we do. And if they're mediocre goals, you know, they require mediocre effort. A really big, enormous goal, that requires enormous effort and going through a process of growth and effort to get there. And it's then that we realize just what we're capable of. And that is an amazing thing, because we are capable of anything we really put our minds and our hearts and our bodies to.
Moderation and mediocrity are two words that I've taken out of my vocabulary, to be honest.
Love it.
Everything in moderation is a total myth, and mediocrity can be a disease in itself. So I don't have those words in my vocabulary any longer.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So that was 12 years ago, was it now, since you did your Ironman?
No, so my first marathon was 14 years ago. I then went on a chapter of growth around running injuries for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So my Ironman was 2015, and that was 7 years ago. And the other synchronistic thing about that was that it was actually the last year of the Melbourne Ironman. So I live in Melbourne, and the Ironman had been on for, it was supposed to be on at least 5 years, and this was year 4 of it. And I had planned to do it the following year. That next year, the event got cancelled. It never happened. So had I not signed up to it that year, I don't know if I would have done one, because doing one in your hometown with all the home support around you is different to traveling to do an event. So yeah, that was the other synchronistic thing. It ended up being the last year of Melbourne Ironman in 2015.
See, I had the opposite idea. I didn't want to do my first marathon in my hometown. I'm not sure I will do the Townsville Marathon. I've done the Townsville Half Marathon. I like doing the destination marathons because I just feel there's something special about it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And did I read recently that you're actually helping to train some marathoners now? Is that right?
I am, yeah. I actually have a passion now to help first-time marathoners. So yeah, I've put marathon coach alongside my name, because sorry.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, because for me, my journey really started, you know, in hindsight, as you reflect back, if I look back, and I talk about it in my book, but doing that first marathon, it gave me a taste of what was possible. And it opened up, I think, running your first marathon, if running's what you're into, can help you open this door to more of life. And that's what it did for me. And it's a big thing. So you've got to know what training to do, and actually it'd be good if you can learn how to listen to your body without having to injure yourself for 4 years to get there. And it's not just a training program. As you know, there's a journey to navigate. What if I'm away for a few weeks and it will be hard to run? Or what if I get injured? What do I do? So I've had.
What if my 4-year-old comes into my bed every night for 3 months and I, don't get any sleep?
There you go. Yeah. We've got to adapt, right? What do we do with that? So, and I guess in my, I've done 5 marathons. I've done international ones and home ones, and I've chased times, and then I've let go of chasing time. So I feel I've had running coaches, and I've trained with different people. So I've I've got to know how different other colleague runners sort of run. So I just to back myself, I guess I think I've learned a lot, and I have a passion for helping people open that door to more of life, and for many of us that can be through that first marathon. So yeah, I'm coaching others towards their first marathon. My first was actually Melbourne Marathon. His name was David, and he read my book.
Mm-hmm.
Had never planned to run a marathon, but then chose to sign up to Melbourne Marathon and needed some help. So he signed up to my marathon coaching package, and he did the most tremendous effort on race day, and even the journey to get there. And I got just as much out of it as he did. To help someone, get there, and he inspired me along the way. It was a really wonderful thing to be a part of, and I'm so glad he looked me up, and I'm looking forward to helping other first-time marathoners make what feels impossible right now possible. Go on the journey with them and help them navigate it.
That's wonderful, because I do a lot of wellness coaching for women, and when they can see what I've been achieving in my running over the last few years, they say, oh, I'm thinking about getting back into running. And so, even just giving them 12 steps to get back to running in 12 weeks, simple little strategies, but it has to be mental, physical, as well as a spiritual experience. It's not just all about the physical side of things. So I'm very much aligned with what you're talking about as well.
Yep, love it. That's great.
And what are you doing just for fun then for yourself, now that you also have a small child to look after?
Yeah, that's a good question. For fun for myself or my running, I'm enjoying getting out there when I do run. And actually, one thing we do when I drop him at childcare, we're out of our house at the moment, renovating, but he bike rides or scooters, and I run alongside him, and he says, "Faster, mummy, faster!" Like he eggs me on, which is a bit of fun. So I think, do you know what? I think the thing I'm doing for fun is actually, and we've recently been on holidays, is allowing myself just to be fully present with him and reconnecting with that, just that child mentality switch. Because there's all, and I think as a mum and as a business owner, and with so much ambition and passion for what I do, there's a constant to-do list in my head. And I recently discovered that when we were away for a week, I intentionally I thought I'm actually going to switch off and not initiate kind of anything, just switch off and just enjoy time with him, and which I do anyway. But when you consciously decide to just shut that to-do list out, it was really good fun, playing with dinosaurs or doing jigsaws or just, having conversation, actually being fully present with the ones you love. I think that's, it shouldn't be a luxury or a thing to do for fun. It should be something we all build into our everyday, but it can become a bit of a juggle. So, I think just having fun with my son. Yeah,
I can relate to that a lot, and it is that reminder to be present and to be mindful of their energy and them as well. Yesterday, I had I have a Sunday afternoon running club with a group of friends, and I said to my youngest, who's 4, do you want to come with mummy to running club and you can ride your bike? So we were doing the bike and running thing. And awesome. She must have told me she loved me about 50 times. Oh. Mummy, I love you. Mummy, I love you. Mummy, I love you. She said, Mummy, this is so fun doing mummy-daughter time while you're running and I'm riding my bike. And, it's just the fact that we were both there together. We were outside. And it's the simple, joyful things that they will remember. And also they get stuck on your heart too, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. That's beautiful. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
So anything else you'd like to share with us before we finish off today?
I think just that concept of, I wrote a book on the topic, but just the power of possibility. If that's one thing that can sit with people, however it does, the power of possibility and the power of actually believing that anything is possible, and living life through this lens of possibility, not limits, and catching yourself when you limit yourself, because we all do. And just having, I'd encourage people just to lead with possibility. Because it can be a really exciting, empowering, inspiring, freeing place to live from. And also just thinking about, big goals, like what's something that your heart desires, that then you think, oh, I wish, I wonder, around a big goal. Actually, what if you could?
Mm.
What if you just signed up and see how you go? Yeah. So encouraging people to take on some sort of big goal, and listen to their heart on it. I think that's my main message, because that's what my journey's been about. And I've done an Ironman, and I've written a book, and I have a little person in this world, and none of those things may have happened if I hadn't discovered this concept of anything being possible. There is so much more within us, and it takes us to sign up and back ourselves and give it a go and see what happens. So yeah, I think that's my leaving message. But thank you for having me, and it's been wonderful having the conversation we have, and all the wonderful work you're doing, Chrissy.
Thank you. Well, I think of the learn, laugh, and share thing, because if I can learn as I'm going along, and I can laugh about my mistakes and my faux pas, and I can share what I'm doing with others, and hopefully it might inspire people too. And I think that's in a way what you're doing too. So good on you. And do you have another book coming?
Thank you. I do. I've got two more.
Okay.
I've got two more coming. I probably haven't done much on them for a little while, but they're there, and they'll come to life when the space is created for them.
Okay, lovely. Well, I'm going to share your contact details at the bottom of this interview, so people can look you up and hopefully grab a copy of your book, which is on your website, but also on Amazon, I'm imagining.
Yeah, sure. Yep. Signed copies on my website, alexandraandre.com, and it's on Booktopia and Amazon. And I'm also recording an audio of it at the moment. I hope I have that sort of out early next year, because a lot of runners have requested it.
Yes, they do. So, I've done an audio book. It's
yeah, brilliant.
It's one of the most stressful experiences, but I did it during lockdown, which is not a good time to try and do an audio book when you've got kids at home.
No, I can imagine. Yeah.
But I just try to tell myself, this is a growth experience. This is a growth experience.
That's it. It always is.
All right. Thanks for joining me. Take care of yourself, and I will talk to you again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Chrissy.